What diagnostic categories could there be if autism subtypes are formally accepted? By Richard Woods at London Suffolk University, PhD student. I'm currently on a gap year, so yeah. How are psychiatric categories formally accepted into diagnostic manuals and kind of clinical guidelines? So usually these are decided by committees of a small number of people. So for example, for the DSM-5, the neurodevelopmental disorders work group decided the autism spectrum disorder diagnosis in there and the exclusion of autism subtypes from that book. So the exclusion of the DSM-4 autism subtypes is partly done under lobbying from autistics, mainly from ASANS, so that's the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network. So yeah, moving on. So in relation towards current subtypes being proposed, there's profound autism and PDA profile of autism. And it can be argued that both can be identified using co-occurring difficulties to create functioning functioning categories in autistic persons. So, profound autism assumes that autism spectrum disorder is too broad and there needs to be a return to narrow subtypes, while PDA profile of autism assumes that autism has expanded to include a clustering of features indicative of PDA, so like, for example, anxiety, demand-avoidance, and impulsivity, etc. So there's some potentially contradictory underlying assumptions between the two proposed subtypes. Um, so yeah, so this simple thought experiment to just ask what categories could be created to replace autism spectrum disorder if a committee formally accepts profound autism and PDA profile autism. So the first scenario is that the committee views autism spectrum disorder to be too broad, so therefore accepts a return to narrow standalone subtypes. So we could see autism as in like regular autism in quotation marks, kind of PDA as a separate neurodevelopmental disorder related to autism, so how Newsom basically originally proposed it, and profound autism, and then a residual category for people not meeting threshold for any of the above three categories. So scenario two is that this committee accepts that autism has expanded to include basically PDA features and adopts the method of using co-occurring difficulties to create severity levels. So you kind of again get kind of just autism as kind of regular autism in kind of quotation marks. So you have autism plus PDA, so that would be PDA profile autism, autism plus profound autism features, so that would be profound autism. And again, there'll be a residual category for people not meeting threshold for any of those three categories. And to be clear, profound autism features seem to be either intellectual disability and/or language impairment. Um, so the final kind of scenario, which is scenario three, is that the committee kind of accepts both approaches, so that they use narrow categories and categories with co-occurring difficulties. So you get a mix of kind of new categories proposed. So you'd kind of get autism with kind of PDA features, so that would again be PDA profile of autism. You get profound autism by itself as a narrow category. Again, a narrow category of neither PDA or profound autism. So again, this would be regular autism as a kind of a narrow thing. You could get a relatively broad one of kind of profound autism and PDA, so that would be profound autism with PDA profile in the same person. And finally, there will be a residual category for people not meeting threshold for any of the above four categories. So just some quick reflective questions, like what are the strengths of the categories in each scenario? What are the issues of the categories in each scenario, and which scenario is the one which you're possibly most comfortable with? So yeah, and are there any potential unintentional consequences of advocating for profound autism and/or PDA profile of autism? So yeah, that's it. I'll be putting a link to the text behind this kind of video in the video description, so if you want to go away and access it, and it's a bit more in depth than this video is, and it has like the references and stuff in there as well. So may one stimming activities be many, one flow states long.